10 sweet years. I never thought my husband would cheat until I saw that post on Reddit. If it were you, stumbling across a post that sounded exactly like your partner, what would you do? Would you confront them right away, stay silent and watch, or walk away without a word? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. I'm Jordan. Every evening, as the sunset draped our small apartment, I would sit by the window, watching the city shimmer under the lights. The soft crackle of the heater mixed with the faint aroma of drip coffee. The way Lucas Hayes, my husband, always made it exactly how I liked. Strong, with a little condensed milk, not too sweet. 4 years of marriage, from our teenage years in love, we had built a tiny world together where every routine became an unspoken bond. But that night, our world began to crack because of one anonymous Reddit post. I was sitting in the armchair, wedding ring glinting under the lamp, when I scrolled past a question that made my heart stop. Married but physically attracted to another woman. What should I do? Curious, I read the description, and every small detail began to piece together the image of me and Lucas. My wife and I have been married for 4 years. We grew up together, longer than I've known my parents. On prom night when we were 18, I confessed my feelings, and that first kiss made my heart race so loud I thought the whole world could hear it. When we were 26, after landing our first big contract together at our startup, I proposed to her right outside the office building. When she said yes, I thought I was the happiest man alive. Now at 30, we're trying for a baby. She's so excited because she loves children. Every sentence matched our story perfectly. Every milestone, prom night, the proposal, the journey of trying to conceive, read like a living journal of my life, written by Lucas's own hand. But then the next part made my throat tighten. I really love her. But since last year, I haven't been able to control my feelings for another girl. She's bold, sexy, way more forward than my wife. At first, I was annoyed by her flirty texts, but now I wait for them. In bed, I only think of her. So much so that I've lost interest in my wife. My breath grew heavy, as if the air had turned thick around me. With trembling fingers, I opened Lucas's Reddit profile. No trace, no posts, no comments, no visible activity. But a wife's instinct told me not to stop. I got up, walked into the office where his computer was still on. The password was our anniversary. A detail that used to make me smile now felt like a cruel joke. Reddit was still open, logged in. I clicked on Saved in his profile, and there, buried among random harmless posts, was a saved comment. It wasn't advice about saving a marriage. It wasn't a warning about betrayal. Just a short reply, barely upvoted, but sharp as a knife. Some people go their whole lives without feeling that kind of physical spark. And she likes you back. Miss this, and you won't get another chance. That's all I'll say. Good luck, I stared at the word saved on the screen, as if it was the final proof of a truth I didn't want to face. No screaming, no confession. Just that one act of saving that comment had already shattered my trust in Lucas. My hand clenched, nails digging into my palm, but that pain was nothing compared to the invisible knife lodged in my chest. Then my phone rang. It was Lucas, my husband, calling to say he had an emergency work trip to another state. His voice still soft, familiar, full of care. Babe, it's cold. Your warm coat is in the top drawer. Don't forget to wear it. I'll get you that fudge from Vancouver, the one you like. Drive safely while I'm away, okay? Every word so meticulous, so affectionate, it almost seemed impossible to fake. And then, before hanging up, his voice dropped, tinged with something more suggestive. When I get back, I want to see you in that new nightgown. I only said, okay, so softly it was almost inaudible, then ended the call with two shaky taps. Now, sitting in the dark, I look down at the wedding ring shining on my hand. Its light feels cold now, like a reminder that this work trip of Lucas's wasn't just about business. I knew, deep down, that the man who once made me believe I was his whole world was now standing at a crossroads. And he had already chosen the path that didn't include me. I sat frozen in the chair in our home office, the desk lamp casting a cold light onto the computer screen, illuminating the name of the folder Lucas had labeled Life. Just those two simple words, yet they felt like a dark prophecy, making my soul feel as if it had momentarily separated from my body. My whole being stiffened like a puppet suddenly yanked by invisible strings, the blood in my body freezing solid, unable to move. My fingers trembled, hovering over the keyboard out of reflex, pausing for a moment before I opened the iMessage app, still logged into Lucas's account. 4 years of marriage, and this was the first time I had ever violated his privacy. Maybe he trusted me too much. Maybe that's why he had gotten careless and left the computer open like this. Thinking of the words bold, sexy, forward from that Reddit post, my chest tightened. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the nausea rising in my throat, then clicked on the most recent chat thread. The latest message had been sent at 2:30 a.m., the exact night Lucas should have been sleeping beside me, his breathing steady, his arm wrapped around my waist like always. But no. In front of me was a mirror selfie from a woman whose avatar was a cartoon bunny head. She wore a tight black dress that barely reached mid-thigh, clinging to her full curves, making them more provocative than ever. Her long, slender legs were covered in deep red fishnet stockings, paired with glossy black stilettos that shimmered under the flash. A thin white shirt, a size too small, clung to her chest so tightly it looked like it might burst through the plunging neckline. She leaned forward slightly, tilting her hips back on purpose, creating a flawless, seductive curve so intense that even as a woman, I couldn't help but stare for a few seconds longer than I should have, mesmerized by her boldness. Beneath the photo, Lucas, my husband, the man I thought belonged fully to me, had replied just a few minutes later, "Still awake." The tone was calm but suggestive, like a silent invitation. The girl replied with just 2 words, "Still up," followed by a winking emoji. My heart pounded in my chest, blood rushing to my ears like roaring waves, as if the entire world around me was crumbling. I knew her. Her name was Samantha Mills, hired last year as an administrative assistant. Her face was average, round, with softly curled brown hair. But her figure was voluptuous, brazenly sexy, with curves that made it hard for any man to look away. On her first day, she caught plenty of eyes with her tight skirts and sheer black tights, low V-neck blouses, cut so deep they pushed the limits of professionalism. Lucas had mentioned her a few times in passing, sounding annoyed, his brows furrowed, his tone disapproving. Dressing like that affects the company's image. If it weren't for her passable skills, someone like that would have been fired long ago. I remember that day clearly. He said that while we were curled up on the couch, his arms wrapped around me from behind, his warm breath brushing my ear. I giggled and teased him for being old-fashioned and uptight. Now, thinking back, it all felt like a bitter joke. The same man who once disapproved of her revealing outfits was the one lying next to me in bed at midnight, secretly texting her in response to those provocative photos. And I, foolishly thinking that was his way of protecting me, had laughed and said, "Appreciating beauty is human nature. If I had her body, I'd probably dress like that too." Lucas had frowned slightly then, his eyes darkening as he spoke firmly. "No, that kind of stuff is only for wearing at home." And then he slowly pulled me closer, planting soft yet burning kisses down the back of my neck and shoulder, making me shiver under the warmth of his touch. His voice husky, tinged with desire. "You're mine. Only mine." So it turns out, the lies began way back then. Like poisonous seeds, they had quietly taken root in the shadows of our marriage. After that day, Samantha did tone down her wardrobe. Slightly looser dresses, longer sleeves. But the curves were still on full display with every calculated step, like a silent dare. And not long after she joined, Lucas arranged to have me reassigned to another branch 10 minutes away from the main office, citing a workload adjustment. At the time, he explained gently, "That way you'll have your own space, be more focused on your projects." I believed him. I even thanked him for being so considerate. Now I understand. It was just his way of freeing himself, removing the risk of me walking in at the wrong time. I scrolled through their message history, my fingers moving mechanically, but every beat of my heart ached. There were so many, an overwhelming number, like a secret journal. The photos Samantha had sent weren't just tight dresses and black stockings. There were all kinds: maid costumes with short aprons, sexy nurse outfits with tight white blouses, bunny ears with soft fuzzy lingerie. Everything. Every photo shot from the most provocative angles, her eyes half-lidded and inviting. At first, Lucas tried to act like he disapproved, replying with stern messages. "Take it down. Keep this up and you're fired." But gradually, his tone shifted. The rejections grew gentler. "Still awake? Then, don't do that. It's not appropriate." And eventually, responses that were vague, not quite refusing, not quite accepting. Night after night, in the quiet hours I thought we were sleeping peacefully, tangled in familiar warmth, Lucas had been texting her. In the dead of night, she would send some sultry selfie with a teasing note. "What do you think of this one?" Her eyes in the photo bold, lips curved in a suggestive smile. And that man would gently reply, "You look very attractive." Or sometimes just a simple heart emoji, just enough to encourage her to keep going. It wasn't a one-time slip, not a moment of weakness. It happened again and again, consistently, like a routine, for half a year. And me? I had no idea. I still smiled every morning, made his coffee, and dreamed about a little family filled with the sound of children's laughter. Now, sitting in the dark of our home office, my tears fall quietly. Not sobs, just a dead silence, like my soul has been drained. At 10:30 p.m., my phone vibrated softly on the desk, the screen lighting up with a message from Lucas, along with a familiar hotel location. "Last time we were in Vancouver, we stayed here too. Miss you so much," he wrote, followed by a blazing red heart emoji, like he was wrapping that message in a sweet memory. It was always his habit. No matter where he went, as soon as he settled in, he'd message me with his exact location, add in a few honeyed words, making me feel like I was the center of his world. But tonight, those same words made my chest tighten, as if a silent rope was wrapping around my heart. I was someone with a strict daily routine. By this time, I would have been fast asleep, curled up under the blanket, with the familiar scent of Lucas still lingering on the pillow. But tonight, I couldn't sleep at all. My eyes dry, staring at the hotel name on the map, as if it were a bleeding wound. That room, that hotel, was the exact place where, a year ago, after his mother kept pressuring us to have kids, calling daily with passive-aggressive remarks, I had broken down in tears in the middle of the night. That night, Lucas held me tight from behind, wiping my tears with those rough but gentle fingers, whispering in my ear, "Don't cry, Jojo. I'll take care of everything." Then he dropped all his work, booked a flight immediately, and took me to Vancouver, a city like a painting, where lush green mountains cradled crystal-clear lakes, and the salty sea breeze tangled in my hair. Each day, he held my hand walking along the lake, shopping in little boutiques, laughing like two people in the first bloom of love. At the bumper cars in the amusement park, he leaned close to my ear amid the laughter and noise, his voice warm and full of love. "I've blocked Mom. Jojo, you're all I need in this life. Kids, only if you want them. If you don't, we don't need any. Jojo, since my mom passed away, Only Lucas ever called me that, in that tender voice that melted my heart. The memory of Vancouver, of those gentle days, now became a razor-sharp blade, severing the love I had treasured for years, leaving a deep, gushing wound inside me. Lucas's business trip was supposed to last 3 days, but it only took me one to gather and organize all the evidence. Every provocative photo from Samantha, every ambiguous message from Lucas, every secret midnight text, all carefully stored in a folder on the computer. Then I contacted a lawyer, a middle-aged woman with eyes sharp as blades, a calm voice heavy with authority. We sat in the living room, under the same warm yellow light that had once witnessed countless happy evenings, going over all the joint company shares under my and Lucas's name, joint bank accounts, the little house with the garden I had cared for with my own hands. Then, quietly, I boarded the early morning flight straight to Vancouver, the place now stained dark by betrayal. Throughout the trip, Lucas acted like he always did on business. 3 video calls a day, his familiar face lighting up the screen, his hair tousled by the sea breeze, his voice warm and casual as he gave me updates. Had meetings with partners today. Took a walk by the lake this afternoon. Missing you. Don't forget your supplements, okay? Every word, every gesture so flawless it was hard to find fault. He smiled, asked about me, showed care like nothing was wrong, like the flirtatious texts with Samantha were just a nightmare that only I saw. Even when I asked him if he was staying in the same room we had stayed in before, Lucas answered openly, eyes looking straight into the camera. Yeah, same room. 806. Beautiful lake view. I've been thinking about you as if. The saved post on Reddit, over 1,000 blurry messages with Samantha, were nothing but illusions, a bad dream that never touched him. I smiled back, my voice carefully steady. The hotel carpet was thick and soundproofed, my footsteps echoing evenly but heavily down the hall, like a countdown to the final moment. I counted each door, each room number, 802, 804. Then I stopped in front of 806, my heart pounding so violently it felt like it would burst from my chest. I raised my hand, pressed the bell. Only then did I realize my whole body was trembling, fingers icy cold, palms damp with sweat, despite the cool hallway air. From inside came a female voice, seductive, drowsy, laced with satisfied exhaustion. Who is it? Samantha's voice, sweet and teasing, like a death row inmate welcoming her final bullet to the chest. That pain made my fingertips curl, like someone bracing themselves before falling into an endless, bottomless pit. I didn't answer, just rang the bell again. A few seconds later, the door opened. We didn't order room service. Samantha's words stopped mid-sentence. Her voice cut off as her face froze, eyes wide in shock. She was wrapped in nothing but a white bath towel, the thin fabric clinging to her full figure, chest rising and falling with ragged breaths, cleavage nearly spilling out, pale skin glowing under the hallway lights. Her legs were long and full, still bearing faint red marks from wild intimacy. Her face flushed with a soft blush, making her otherwise plain features look strikingly sensual. Messy hair, slightly swollen lips, eyes still glazed with satisfaction. Then came the voice I knew better than my own. A voice from behind her, casual as ever. Room service? A second later, Lucas stepped out of the bathroom, wearing nothing but a towel loosely slung around his hips, his body still warm and wet from the shower, water droplets tracing the firm lines of his chest. The moment our eyes met, his pupils contracted reflexively, his face drained of color, mouth open but speechless, like he'd just seen a ghost from hell. Time stopped. Only my heart pounded wildly in my chest, as dead silence swallowed the room. A room that once held our beautiful memories, now shattered into jagged pieces that pierced straight through me. The very next second, Lucas shoved Samantha out the door with such force that she stumbled, nearly falling onto the carpeted hallway floor, her towel almost slipping off her curvy body. Samantha gasped in shock, her voice trembling with confusion. Lucas, "What are you doing?" Lucas barked back, practically shouting, his face flushed with panic, finger pointing toward the hallway like he was kicking out a stray animal. "Go back to your room." Now. Then he spun around to face me, his voice stammering like a man desperately trying to plug a giant crack. "Honey, it's not what you think. Just let me explain. Her room's shower was broken. She just came here to borrow mine. Don't misunderstand." As he finished, he turned and shouted at Samantha again, his tone sharp and theatrical, hands waving frantically toward her. "Tell her! Didn't you just come here just to shower?" Samantha steadied herself, and the dazed, embarrassed look on her face suddenly gave way to a strangely calm expression. She casually tucked her messy hair behind one ear, deliberately revealing a faint reddish love bite on her collarbone, a clear remnant of feverish kisses, her lips curling into a mocking, condescending smile, her voice sweet but dripping with sarcasm. "Yes. Just as CEO Lucas said, the shower in my room was broken. The hotel was fixing it too slowly, so I just borrowed his bathroom for a bit." She even tugged her towel up slightly, exposing more of her pale thigh, like she was daring the truth to look her in the eye. I didn't spare either of them a glance, ignoring the hand Lucas held out to block me, as I walked calmly into the room. The air inside reeked of something thick and chaotic, a mix of cheap perfume, salty sweat, and the suffocating stench of recently satisfied lust, making my stomach twist. On the floor was a mess of lacy lingerie, ripped black lace panties, a crumpled deep red bra, torn stockings, tangled and knotted together like the wreckage of a violent storm of passion. Scattered from the bathroom door to the foot of the bed, a hot, chaotic scene that slapped me across the face and made my ears ring with rage. I pulled a tissue from the box beside the bed, bent down, and slowly picked up one of the ripped stockings. Just as I lifted it, Lucas grabbed my wrist tightly, the veins on the back of his hand bulging, his forehead lined with tense cords, like he was on the brink of exploding, his voice trembling with desperation. "What do you want?" "Say something, please." I said nothing, just quietly, slowly pulled my wrist free from his grip. "Don't touch me," I said, without a shred of emotion. The muscle near Lucas's temple twitched violently. His face darkened instantly, his eyes bloodshot, and suddenly he pointed a finger straight at Samantha, who was still standing at the door. "I didn't do anything with her." I stared directly at him, repeating his words. "Nothing? So no kissing, no touching, no sleeping together?" I threw the ripped stocking at his face. The thin fabric hit his cheek, light but humiliating, causing him to blink in stunned silence. "Do you think I'm stupid?" The fire that had been smoldering inside me for too long could no longer be contained. I shoved Lucas hard, the force making him stumble back 2 steps, crashing into the edge of the bed. "You disgust me, Lucas." "We're getting a divorce." Lucas refused to divorce. I had anticipated this, just like I had predicted every one of his moves over the past 4 years of marriage. We'd been together for too long, from the days of running barefoot through the grass behind our childhood homes, to building a company from scratch side by side. Love, family, or maybe just the weight of long-term attachment. Everything had intertwined into a bond too tight to simply sever, and more than that, Lucas was the one caught red-handed, the one at fault, the one bearing the heavier weight of guilt. Agreeing to divorce right away would be no different from signing a confession, admitting that he had betrayed me, had broken the vow he once made beneath that office building. But I knew, deeper than all of that, what really bound us was shared interest. The company we co-founded, now on the cusp of its IPO on NASDAQ. A messy scandal, a dramatic divorce, could trigger a chain reaction, destroying everything he had so carefully built. Lucas didn't want personal affairs to shake the empire he called our future. I knew. I had seen it all coming. So he desperately tried to prove he hadn't actually slept with Samantha, as if that alone could salvage some scrap of dignity. After returning from Vancouver, Lucas was a wreck. He dragged in a trash bag from the hotel, like some sick form of evidence, and dumped it in front of me on the living room floor. He shouted, his voice hoarse, eyes bloodshot, hair wild like he'd survived a storm. Look! The condoms are still sealed. I don't know how many more times I have to say it. I didn't do anything with her. He stood there, shoulders slumped, hands trembling as he pointed at the mess, his face haggard, like he was the one who'd been betrayed. For nearly a week afterward, Lucas clung to me like a shadow, following me from the living room to the kitchen, from the bedroom to the garden, trying everything to convince me he hadn't really cheated. I looked at the broken man in front of me, hair greasy with sweat, shirt wrinkled, eyes pleading for forgiveness, and my heart still ached, not from love, but from mourning a version of Lucas I once trusted completely. But I couldn't. You think that just because you didn't have sex, it's not cheating? I pulled out a thick folder from my bag, the printed message history between him and Samantha, over 1,000 lines of raw, unfiltered text, and threw it in front of him. Over 1,000 messages, I said, my voice so cold it startled even me. What I printed here is just a small part. On those clean white pages were sharp, seductive words that cut like blades. I just want to own you completely, even if just once. That day when I forced a kiss on you in the office, you responded. I felt it. You crave my body the same way I crave yours. Every line was a stab, draining the oxygen from the room. Lucas's eyes widened, face pale, lips moving as if to speak but unable to form words, until finally he exploded. You were spying on me? I looked him straight in the eye, my voice light but razor sharp. If you really wanted to hide it, you could have been more careful. You probably could have fooled me for life. That sentence hit like an invisible slap. Lucas staggered back, raking his hands through his hair, yanking it like he wanted to punish himself. He shouted, nearly unhinged, his voice echoing in the space now filled only with the debris of us. She sent it all. I never said anything inappropriate back. But I just stared at him, my eyes calm and unreadable, my voice steady like I was analyzing a business deal. You're right. You didn't say anything, but you allowed it to continue. The moment she crossed the line, you didn't stop her. You let it happen. I stepped closer, only a hand's width between us, looking into his bloodshot, hopeless eyes. Lucas, you've already let yourself enjoy the thrill of crossing that line. To me, it doesn't matter whether you slept with her or not. You've already stained what we had. You ruined our love. You ruined our marriage, Lucas whispered in despair, his voice trembling, almost begging, his hand reaching toward me, then pulling back like it might burn. I really didn't do anything with her. I never even thought about divorce, Jojo. I nodded gently, my voice detached, as if I were speaking to a stranger. I believe you. I believe you didn't do anything. I paused, took a deep breath, feeling my heart harden like stone. But I don't care anymore. Whether you did or didn't, it no longer means anything to me. And that sentence became an invisible wall between us, leaving no room for anything else to hold on to. One day, on the way back to the apartment, my phone vibrated softly. A new message popped up. It was from Samantha. Ever since we returned from Vancouver, she had unexpectedly added me on Instagram. Her profile picture still held that sweet smile, as if nothing had happened. This time, her message was just a link to a secondary account, a dark corner of the story between her and Lucas, documented in disturbing raw detail without any attempt to conceal. That account was a sick archive. Every post, every photo, every caption telling their story. Samantha wrote that from the very first time she met Lucas, the young, handsome CEO with sharp eyes and a tall frame. She was instantly drawn to him and swore she would make him hers. Another post recounted the time Lucas scolded her for dressing too provocatively. Even though he frowned and snapped at her, he couldn't take his eyes off her. According to her, he didn't yell at her because of the company image, but because he was ashamed and angry at himself for losing control. Then came the night they kissed for the first time, just a few weeks after I had been reassigned from headquarters. That night, the office was dark, and only two people remained, Samantha and Lucas. She kissed him first, pressed her lips against his in a moment of chaos, and though Lucas eventually pushed her away, his hand had already slid around her slender waist, hot and hurried, as if he couldn't resist. From that moment on, Samantha was emboldened. Like a hunter who knew her prey had already bitten the bait. The Vancouver trip, it turned out, was Lucas's idea. I didn't believe for a second that when he made that decision, his mind was as pure as he had sworn it was. Maybe at some point, he thought about me, about the 20 years we'd spent together, or about the company, the shares, the risks if things blew up. So they didn't go all the way. Lucas believed that stopping in time was proof of loyalty, a reason this marriage didn't deserve a death sentence. But when I read the words Samantha wrote about those 2 days in Vancouver, my stomach turned. He said he couldn't betray his wife, so during those 2 days, I used my hands, my mouth, to help him. I loved watching him want it so badly, but not dare to take it. How I teased him until he nearly lost control, but still tried to act serious. Every word I read, one by one, erased any lingering softness I had felt when Lucas had begged me for forgiveness. Thanks to Samantha and her obsessive words, I forced every last shred of weakness out of my heart. Painful, but necessary. Aside from Lucas, the person who reacted most violently after I proposed divorce was his mother, Mrs. Eleanor Hayes. She cornered me right outside the company gate, her glare fierce like she wanted to rip me apart. "Hayes told me you want to divorce him," she snapped, lips tight, her heavily made-up face twisted in fury. I didn't want to become the subject of gossip among the employees watching from afar, so I took a deep breath and invited her to a nearby cafe. The moment we sat down, before we could even order, she slammed her hand on the table and shot straight to the point. "Hayes said he didn't even do anything wrong, so why are you making such a scene?" Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, her gaze dripping with contempt, as if I were some parasite. "You relied on the company my son built with blood and sweat, took half the shares, and now you want a divorce just to take half his money. I won't allow it. Don't you dare think you'll get a single cent from Hayes." My mother-in-law, after all these decades, had never changed. I remembered when I was young, and my parents were still alive, how kind she used to be to my family. Back then, my father's company was thriving, not only generating wealth, but helping Lucas's father become rich as well. Thanks to my father, their family moved into a mansion, drove luxury cars. But when my father went bankrupt and ended his life by jumping from his office building, and my mother fell seriously ill and passed away, Mrs. Hayes immediately turned on me, calling me bad luck, the curse that killed my parents. Her poisonous words once made me feel ashamed, made me pull away from Lucas, driving us further apart. That year, Lucas had a huge argument with her, warning her and standing up for me. I thought she had changed, but in the end, she had only held back out of respect for her son. The cruelty remained, the same sharp blade hidden behind a polite smile. I looked at the woman in front of me, her golden-dyed hair, her elegant dress, but her words grew more venomous with every breath. I gave a soft laugh and slowly said, "Eleanor, the company you call your son's, half of the initial capital came from me. It was the last sum my grandmother left me before she passed away. Over the years, while Lucas traveled endlessly for business, I stayed up hundreds of nights building this company, strategizing, negotiating every contract. The court will determine who owns what." I paused, looked her straight in the eye, and my voice turned ice cold. "And if I hear even one more word slandering, accusing, or insulting me, I will ask my lawyer to take you to court and put you behind bars. Properly." Legally, Eleanor was so furious she turned beet red, her lips trembling, but she couldn't say a word. She just stood up and stormed out. That night, as retaliation, she posted a photo on Facebook, her and Samantha cheek to cheek, both smiling brightly, Samantha radiant, Eleanor's eyes filled with smug triumph. The caption read, "When choosing a daughter-in-law, it still has to be someone who suits your eye and heart." I stared at the screen, expressionless. my finger calmly capturing the post and sending it straight to Lucas. No explanations. I added her to my block list. A few moments later, my phone buzzed. Lucas had sent a question mark, but I was beyond exhausted. I replied with just one line, like a cold farewell. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Meet me at the lawyer's office. After all those dark days, I began seriously preparing for the dream I had once put aside, studying abroad in France. 8 years ago, right after graduating college, my plan was to fly to Paris, pursue a master's degree, lose myself in cobblestone streets and libraries steeped in the scent of old paper. But because of Lucas, back then, just a young man with big dreams and empty hands, I chose to stay, tucked that dream into a corner, and helped him build a company from the ground up. The sleepless nights writing business plans, the long days chasing partners and deals, I once believed it was a fair price to pay to be with someone I loved. If this marriage hadn't fallen apart, maybe I really would have abandoned that dream forever, resigned to being the kind of wife the Hayes family expected me to be. Have children, care for my husband, live a quiet life in a house full of hydrangeas. But stepping out of that line, I finally saw it. Yes, I love children, but not so much that I would sacrifice every other part of who I am just to become a mother. I longed for marriage, but now, only in solitude do I feel I can fly farther, see more, and truly be myself. A few days later, my phone buzzed. Lucas's name lit up the screen, his voice cold, laced with that familiar condescension. "Your stuff. Come get it when you're free." I replied flatly, "Throw it away." The things that truly mattered. The ring my grandmother left me, a notebook filled with youthful dreams, and what little pride I had left, I'd already taken with me the day I left that house. The rest, all tied to Lucas, were things I had no desire to carry anymore. He scoffed, voice half mocking. "Sorry, I'm not obligated to take out your trash," I said calmly, "then hire a junk removal service," and hung up without hesitation. That night, my phone buzzed again, this time from Samantha. A stream of explicit photos filled the screen, tightening my chest like a fist. On the very bed where Lucas and I had spent 4 years together, Samantha now sat in a sheer red lace nightgown, clinging to her voluptuous body, straddling Lucas, her arms draped around his neck, her lips grazing his ear in a suggestive pose. Not just one photo, but a whole series taken from different angles, clearly staged, like a twisted collection of memories sent deliberately to provoke me. I imagined them laughing while choosing the angles, Samantha's smug expression, and Lucas, perhaps trying to punish me for being so firm in walking away. I calmly took screenshots of each one, forwarded them to my lawyer, then blocked Samantha without a word. I thought, after all that, the divorce would finally proceed smoothly. But on the day of our appointment, the law office felt cold, the stiff leather chairs even colder. Only my lawyer and I sat waiting. Lucas never showed. I called him, and he picked up immediately. His voice no longer sarcastic or angry, but calm, gentle, like it had once been. "Jojo, I still don't want a divorce. I won't come." I almost laughed from sheer rage, gripping the phone tightly, my voice like ice. "Why?" "Give me one reason." He was silent for a while, then whispered, as if speaking to himself, "Because I love you. That's all. In my whole life, I've never thought of marrying anyone else but you, never thought about divorcing you. Jojo, I keep feeling that, if we get divorced, I'll never see you again." Lucas not only refused to divorce, he did everything to delay the court date. He cited shareholder meetings, sudden business trips, even health issues. He started showing up in my line of sight, not too close, but never far enough to forget. I'd walk into a corner cafe to buy a latte, only to spot him in the back corner, sipping coffee, quietly watching me from a distance. He always kept that subtle distance, never speaking, never approaching, but never disappearing either, like a lingering shadow keeping his presence alive, just enough to keep me from fully breaking free. I threatened to go public with his affair with Samantha, to let the scandal shake the company's IPO process on NASDAQ. He only shrugged, voice indifferent, almost defiant. The company is the result of both our efforts. If you don't care about it anymore, then neither do I. Lucas's stubbornness had rooted itself deep in his bones, turning him into a man who simply wouldn't let go, even when all that remained was ash. That tug-of-war dragged on for half a month, each day passing like a silent, exhausting battle, until I finally made up my mind. To end it all, cleanly and completely, with no looking back. That day, as I dragged the trash bag downstairs, I once again, accidentally, ran into Lucas. He was standing under the old oak tree, eyes filled with sorrow, hands stuffed deep into his coat pockets. I stopped, pulled a crumpled piece of paper from my jacket, and threw it straight at his chest. It floated gently to the ground like a dry leaf. It was a pregnancy test report. I looked him straight in the eyes. Lucas's expression shifted from calm to shocked, then burst into overwhelming excitement, like he had just seen light at the end of a tunnel. He reached out, trying to pull me into his arms, his voice trembling with emotion. "Jojo, really? You're pregnant? It's our child?" His eyes were glowing, like the teenage boy who once held my hand in the rain, but I simply took a deep breath and replied, calm and cold, "Yes. Lucas, if you still refuse to divorce, I won't keep this baby." The joy on Lucas's face froze instantly, like a flame snuffed out by a cold wind. He stared at me in silence, his pupils shrinking as if trying to read my mind. After a long pause, his voice came out hoarse, choked, like every word was being dragged from deep inside his chest. "If we get divorced, will you keep the baby?" I nodded, holding back the tears welling in my eyes, my voice steady. "Lucas, I don't have anyone left. I want a life connected to mine more than anyone else in this world." He said nothing, his arms limp at his sides, shoulders slumped like a defeated man. When I looked up again, I saw a single tear slip down the corner of his eye, glistening under the streetlight. "Jojo, but I really don't want to," he whispered, voice shattered. I cut him off, each word sharp as a blade. "If you don't agree to the divorce, then I don't want this baby." 3 days later, Lucas and I stepped into the courthouse together. The icy air of the hallway seeped into my skin, our footsteps echoed dryly against the marble floor. After the divorce paperwork was finalized, I checked my phone and saw a sudden, massive bank transfer, enough to let me live comfortably for the rest of my life. Lucas stood a few steps away, his eyes gentle and somber. "Everything we had under both our names, I liquidated it and transferred it all into your account," he said, his voice low. "From now on, the annual dividends from the company, I'll send them to you, on time." Just as I opened my mouth, he quickly added, his voice urgent, "Jojo, don't refuse me. Please, take it as something I owe you, and our child." I pressed my lips together and finally gave a slight nod, my eyes brushing past him without a trace of sentiment. Over the next month, Lucas became the image of a responsible father-to-be. He sent box after box of baby items to my new apartment, dozens of infant outfits in both blue and pink, because we didn't yet know the gender. A stroller, wooden crib, baby bottles, all neatly packed, still smelling of fresh plastic and wood. He even signed up for prenatal classes for fathers, reserved the hospital and postnatal nurse, as if trying to atone for his mistakes with belated devotion. As the plane lifted off, breaking through the soft white clouds, I looked down at the shrinking city. The streets that once held memories of me and Lucas, now reduced to faint streaks of light. I thought to myself, compared to the nights Lucas pretended to sleep beside me while secretly texting Samantha, my little lie, a fake pregnancy report, a bit of heartbreak at the right moment, was truly nothing. It wasn't a noble move, but I didn't feel ashamed. That lie bought me freedom, let me escape a marriage riddled with cracks, and walk toward the future, a wide open sky where I could finally live as myself. When the plane landed in Paris, my phone lit up with a flood of missed calls from Lucas. I opened social media and saw that news of the office romance between him and Samantha had exploded, spreading like wildfire. Turns out, after the divorce, Lucas rejected Samantha, and she, like a wounded animal, released everything online, from messages and photos to scandalous stories between them. The company's stock price plummeted overnight. The NASDAQ IPO was shelved indefinitely, all thanks to the scandal of the founder cheating on his wife with a hot female employee. Internal company chat groups were in chaos. Didn't the CEO love his wife so much? If even someone like him can't resist temptation, I don't believe in love anymore. All it takes is a deep V-neck like Samantha's and those curves. What man can say no? I read the comments and let out a soft laugh, a quiet but cold smile. Then, silently, I left the group chat. The moment I stepped out of Charles de Gaulle Airport, the cool Paris air filled my lungs, carrying a faint trace of lavender from a nearby shop. My phone buzzed. Lucas's name lit up the screen. I picked up calmly, my finger gliding across the screen, and immediately his voice exploded from the other end, angry, frantic, laced with pain. "Jordan! Where are you? Where did you go?" I stood among the bustling crowd, soft golden sunlight filtering through the trees, and replied with quiet composure. "Why are you looking for me?" He nearly shouted, his voice trembling, desperate. "Where's the baby?" "The pregnancy, wasn't it real? Didn't you say if I agreed to the divorce you'd keep it? Where did you go? You lied to me. How could you lie to me like that?" I heard his sobs, like a man being ripped apart, his voice shattered, raw with heartbreak. I spoke softly, but each word was ice cold. "Why couldn't I lie to you?" "There never was a baby." I let out a quiet laugh, a chilling sound that startled even me. "Why are you so upset? When you lied to me, did you ever imagine this day would come?" "Lucas, from now on, don't ever contact me again." Right before I hung up, I heard him scream, gut-wrenching, like a wounded animal howling in agony. But to me, it was nothing more than noise, distant, no longer able to reach my heart. I tapped the screen. It went dark, and I kept walking, my shoes clicking steadily on the Paris sidewalk, leaving the past behind. I adapted quickly to life here. A new phone number, a small apartment overlooking the Seine, mornings sipping black coffee in a quiet cafe, and class hours filled with new knowledge. It all felt like another world, where the name Lucas and my old wounds slowly faded into something foreign. Everything back home no longer felt connected to me. But sometimes, during conversations with old friends, his name would come up unintentionally. I thought we'd ended in silence, each going our own way, no longer overlapping. I never expected that the next time his name reached my ears, it would be amid chaos. Lucas was involved in a criminal case. The news spread like wildfire, from social media to newspapers. Everyone knew. After the affair with Samantha was exposed, she became a public punching bag. Samantha's backup Instagram account, where she had obsessively documented every dirty detail between them, was dug up. Her photos, captions, and messages became weapons the internet used to destroy her. Unable to withstand the pressure, Samantha stormed into the company. Surrounded by murmuring employees, she confronted Lucas, her face flushed, her voice sharp and threatening. "If you don't marry me, I'll expose every secret between us." But Lucas, who by then had lost everything, his family, his reputation, his IPO dream, looked at her with pure hatred and screamed like a cornered man. "You ruined me! You destroyed my family!" In the heat of the moment, he shoved Samantha hard, and she fell from an upper floor of the office building, her scream echoing before her body hit the ground. Samantha didn't die, but she was paralyzed from the waist down. The rest of her life would be confined to a wheelchair, and the once proud glint in her eyes was replaced by emptiness. Lucas was arrested on the spot, his hands trembling, face pale, eyes wild like someone waking from a nightmare. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, his mother, somehow got my new number. She called, her voice shaking, all bitterness gone. Just desperate pleading. "Jordan, please come home. Help Hayes through this. I'm begging you." I sat by the window, watching the Seine shimmer under the moonlight, and I said no. From the moment I held that divorce paper, everything related to him ceased to be my concern. That rusted past, that curtain had closed, and I had no intention of lifting it again. I turned off my phone, stood up, and walked out to the little balcony of my apartment. The night wind brushed past, carrying the scent of an old city, of stone streets and new dreams. Ahead of me was an open sky, filled with sights I'd never seen, roads I would explore alone. I took a deep breath, feeling freedom swell in my chest, and smiled softly. Lucas, Samantha, and all the noisy drama of the past were now just passing clouds, dissolving beneath the glittering sky of Paris.